Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our session, Beyond CEUs, Building High-Value Competency Frameworks for Modern Members. I'm Darrean Janes, an account executive here at MapleLMS. Joining me today are Matt Peterson, our relationship director, and Sarvesh, one of our LMS experts. We're excited to spend some time talking about competency-based learning, what it is, why more associations are adopting it, and how it can help create more meaningful learning experiences for members. Whether you're just beginning to explore competency frameworks or looking to expand what you're already doing, our goal today is to share practical ideas that you could take back to your organization. Before we jump in, just a few housekeeping notes. Today's webinar is being recorded, so we'll be sure to send the recording and any relevant resources to everyone who is registered. We would also love for this to be interactive, so if you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A or the chat. We will do our best to answer live, and if we don't get to your questions, we'll be happy to follow up afterwards. So now with that, let's take a look at what we will be covering today. Before we jump in, I would like to take a moment to walk through what we will be covering today. We'll start by answering a foundational question. What is competency-based education? We'll define what competency actually looks like, how it differs from traditional learning models, and why it's becoming an increasingly important strategy for associations. From there, we'll explore why associations are making this shift. We'll discuss the changing expectations of today's learners and employers, and how competency-based learning helps organizations move beyond measuring participation to demonstrating meaningful skill development. Next, we will break down the key components of a competency framework and show how those frameworks can support learner growth while aligning with your organization's goals. We will then shift our focus to the business impact, looking at how competency-based programs can increase member engagement, create new revenue opportunities, and strengthen long-term member retention. Finally, we'll bring it all together by showing you how these frameworks are built, managed within MapleLMS. You will see a competency framework in action, followed by a live demonstration of the platform. Before we wrap up with key takeaways, next steps, and plenty of time for your questions. So our goal today is that you leave with not only a clear understanding of competency-based learning, but also practical ideas of how your organization can begin putting it into practice. So with that, let's start by answering our first question. What exactly is competency-based education? Before we talk about why organizations are making this shift, it's helpful to establish a common definition. When we talk about competency-based education, we're talking about an approach that's centered around what learners are actually able to do, not simply what they've completed. A competency is a measurable combination of knowledge, skills, and behaviors that someone needs to successfully perform in a particular role or profession. Traditional learning often measures participation. You attend a course, complete the required hours, maybe pass a quiz, and earn a certificate or CEUs. Competency-based learning takes that a step further. Instead of asking, did somebody finish the course? It asks, can they demonstrate the skills that they're expected to have? Learning becomes more intentional because every course, assessment, badge, or learning activity is tied back to a specific competency. For learners, this creates a much clearer development path. They can see where they're proficient, where they still have opportunities to grow, and what learning they should complete next to continue progressing. For associations, it creates a much more meaningful way to measure learning outcomes and demonstrate the value of your education programs. So competency-based learning isn't really replacing traditional education. It's adding structure and measurable skill development on top of it. It's helping organizations move beyond simply tracking participation to actually supporting professional growth. And once we understand what competency-based learning is, the next question becomes, why are so many associations beginning to adopt this approach? One of the biggest reasons is that member expectations have changed. Today's professionals aren't just looking to earn credits, they're looking for education that helps them grow in their careers. They want to know that they're developing meaningful skills, they want evidence that they're improving, and they want learning that clearly connects to their professional goals. That's where many organizations begin to run into challenges with traditional education models. So now to be clear, CEUs are still incredibly valuable. They remain an important way to document participation and support continuing education requirements. But many organizations are realizing that CEUs alone don't always tell the full story. Completing a course doesn't necessarily mean someone has mastered a skill. Attendance doesn't automatically translate into ability, and it can be difficult to measure whether learners are truly progressing over time. Competency-based learning helps fill that gap. So instead of focusing only on course completion, it allows organizations to measure real skill, build structured development pathways, identify areas where learners may need additional support, and personalize learning journeys based on each individual's need. The result is education that feels more relevant, more engaging, and ultimately more valuable for members. So now I'll hand it off to Matt to deconstruct the competency framework.
Yeah, thanks, Darrean, and a pleasure to be here today on the webinar. I wanted to start talking about deconstructing the competency framework. Competency framework goes beyond just listing courses. It really defines the complete capability required for success through three core components: knowledge, what professionals need to understand; skills, what they need to perform; and behaviors, how they apply those skills in real situations. Instead of creating a flat course catalog, associations can build skill pathways that guide members from their current level toward career growth. And this creates a more personalized and measurable learning experience. Next, I wanted to talk about the business impact of competency-based education for association. Competency frameworks deliver benefits that extend far beyond instruction. They create stored strategic value for the entire association. We can skip to the next slide. When members see that organization is actively helping them achieve their career goals, the entire relationship transforms. And here's how a competency-based model elevates your association across 5 key areas. So first is it can increase engagement. In a traditional model, member interaction is often sporadic, maybe a single course, or they attend a once-a-year conference. A competency framework shifts members into continuous monthly engagement by offering personalized learning recommendations based on specific skill gaps, and members will regularly return to complete bite-sized, self-paced modules throughout the year. Secondly, it improves member retention. By becoming a trusted career development partner, you give members a clear reason to stay. In fact, associations using competency-backed credentialing regularly see a 5 to 12% boost in renewal rates among their credentialed members. This is especially vital for young professionals who often drop memberships if generic content doesn't help them advance. Competency-based pathways give them a clear roadmap that directly impacts their resume and also their earning potential. Third, it can strengthen your certification and professional development programs. A framework introduces measurable skill validation, delivering massive value to both members and employers. So we all face competition from generic edtech platforms like LinkedIn Learning or Coursera, but you hold a defensible market position. So anyone can publish a video course, but only the authoritative industry association can define and validate the official standards of competence for that particular field. When employers align job descriptions and promotion criteria with your standards, your credentials become mandatory for career growth in your sector. Fourth, it can create opportunities for premium offerings. Moving beyond basic course catalogs allow you to package high-value products such as targeted competency assessments, specialized learning pathways, and advanced specialty credentials that stand out in a crowded marketplace. And then fifth, it also can generate new revenue streams. So these premium offerings open up fresh monetization channels, whether through employer-sponsored workforce programs, tiered subscription models, or specialized credentialing fees. You diversify non-dues revenue while delivering proven value. Ultimately, this approach transforms your LMS from a simple course delivery tool into a very powerful member growth ecosystem. Next, I wanted to dive a little bit more into about engagement and how that can drive member engagement through the competency-based learning. Within an LMS, it can transform how associations deliver education, shifting the member experience from the generic course delivery to a deeply personalized growth engine. Traditional learning models often treat all members the same, offering the exact same catalog regardless of someone's role or experience. But competency frameworks change this by giving you a clear view of where each member stands and what skills they need to reach the next level. Here is how bringing competency capabilities into your LMS transforms your members' journey. First, it delivers personalized learning paths based on skill gaps, so automatically identifying individual strengths and development needs through assessments, self-evaluation, or maybe their feedback that their supervisor provides to them. Second is aligning education with our career goals. So, mapping learning directly to real world roles and professional milestones, ensuring every course serves a clear career purpose. Third is increasing the learner engagement, driving higher participation by serving up targeted, relevant recommendations that members actually want, moving away from sporadic once a year usage. Also, it'll enable learners to track their progress. This gives your member visual tools to monitor their competency achievements in real time and empowering them to take ownership of their own development. And finally, just building stronger member relationships. When you position your association as an indispensable partner by supporting continuous, lifelong professional growth. Ultimately, members stop viewing your LMS as just a place to collect credits, and it starts seeing it as the primary engine driving their career forward. Next, we wanted to talk a little bit about the association revenue growth that you can experience. So, competency frameworks don't just improve learning outcomes, they open up powerful new revenue channels for your association. By shifting from standalone courses to structured, high value learning solutions, you can drive significant non dues revenue across five key areas. First would be to create premium learning pathways, package curated courses and micro credentials into specialized career focused learning programs that command higher price points. Second, it can enhance your certification opportunities. It upgrades standard certificate programs into rigorous competency-backed credentials that hold higher market value for both members and their employers. Next, you could offer standalone skill assessments. You can monetize on diagnostic assessments and competency validation services for professionals looking to benchmark their skills or for organizations evaluating candidates. Can also elevate your member subscriptions, boost the value of your higher tier education memberships and subscription packages by including exclusive access to advanced competency frameworks. And finally, you can build in entirely new revenue streams, partner with corporate employers to deliver customized enterprise level career focused learning solutions across your entire industry. By wrapping structure and real world validation around your content, you just turn standard education offerings into high margin revenue drivers. So I wanted to dive a little deeper into this enterprise focus and in particular B2B sales. Employers today care far less about seminar attendance and far more about proven, verifiable competence. This creates a massive B2B revenue opportunity for associations. Organizations are actively looking for proof that their workforce has the exact skill need to succeed, and your association can be the authoritative source that provides it. So, by bringing competency based education into your LMS, you can unlock four high level B2B revenue channels. The first one I kind of call corporate membership tiers, and along with this, bulk licensing and enterprise subscriptions. Instead of selling one-off courses to individual members, you can package corporate subscription tiers directly to industry employers, and corporate HR and learning and development departments will readily purchase bulk enterprise-wide seat packages or their own learning portal if your platform provides verified proof of skill application. And to sweeten these corporate packages, you can offer employer leaders an enterprise skills dashboard. This would allow managers to track their team's skill gaps and competency completion in real time. Employers can pay per seat or buy bulk competency tracks specifically to onboard and upskill their workforce. Or perhaps you charge a flat rate annually for their number of employees and give them access to nearly all or most of your content. The second would be a workforce competency verification services. So this isn't about traditional academic training. It's about validating that employees can actually do the job. You can provide tools that allow employers to rate their staff through direct observation using assessments in the LMS, micro-credentials, or practical task demonstrations. You can also build employee-sponsored learning pathways. This would be custom bundling your course offerings around an employee-specific job role and high-demand skills leadership like data analytics or technical trades. Finally, you have paid test out skills assessment portfolios. So many senior experienced professionals already have the skills, but they lack the formal validation. And they don't want to waste the time or money on a 10-hour introductory course when they already know 80% of the material. By offering a paid skills assessment portfolio path, perhaps for an evaluation fee of $250 or $500, professionals can take high-level practical assessments without taking the prerequisite coursework. And if they pass, they earn your credential. And if they fail specific competencies, the LMS automatically upsells them on the exact paid monies needed to bridge the gap. Respecting their time will build incredible brand loyalty. So the bottom line is here is the enterprise offerings help employers dramatically reduce their internal training costs while ensuring workforce readiness. And more importantly, it creates a powerful retention loop. Traditional models monetize seat time, but a competency-based model lets you monetize proven career outcomes. It integrates seamlessly with your existing certifications, ensuring both individual members and corporate partners return year after year to maintain their professional edge. Next, want to get into kind of more the nuts and bolts of building a competency framework in an LMS. And a successful competency framework begins with a clear understanding of the specific skills required across different professional roles. Within our platform, administrators have full control to build customized competency frameworks tailored specifically to your industry's unique standards. So as an administrator, you can easily establish custom competency categories that align with your industry's taxonomy. You can set clear proficiency levels and set the scale. You determine what the measurement methods using targeted assessments, evaluations, or practical demonstrations, and then you connect those with your competencies. So with competencies, you can connect it to an entire course or to one or more competencies, or you can isolate a single assessment as the benchmark that proves a learner has achieved mastery. Learners that then can take courses, complete assessments, and an evaluation. Once a learner completes an evaluation and identifies a skill gap, the system will recommend the exact learning activities needed to close that gap. So this creates an intelligent connection between the competency itself and the content required to build it, and the learner's journey toward true mastery of the competency. Next, I wanted to talk about how MapleLMS enables competency-based learning, and this is a key differentiator for us, is the competencies aren't just passive course tags. They function as structured learning metadata deeply integrated into the learning structure that directly shapes and drives the member's experience. So administrators have full flexibility to build out these custom frameworks tailored to their association's specific standards, and you get to decide how these competencies are measured. For example, you can validate mastery in three flexible ways or a combination. You can do it through direct LMS assessments, so a learner completes a quiz, exam, or an interactive module inside the platform. Could also give self-evaluation. So this is where you let a learner rate their own competence and skill levels against defined benchmarks. Or in the case of an employer, a manager or mentor may evaluate and verify the workplace performance. So once again, once the skill gaps are identified through any of these methods, MapleLMS automatically steps in and it guides learners towards targeted recommended learning activities designed specifically to bridge those exact gaps. This creates a very curated individual learning plan instead of just a prescribed learning path. Next, we're going to get prepared for the demo. And in our demo, we're going to look at competency-based learning from two key perspectives. So first is the administrator and then also the learner. So first on the administrator side, we'll show you how simple it is to set up the foundation of your program. You'll see how to build a competency framework tailored to your industry standards. We'll define proficiency scales and role-based expectations, and we'll map the competencies directly to specific courses, learning activities, and assessments. Second, we'll shift to the learner's perspective to see how that foundation creates a personalized member experience. We'll walk through how members can assess their current skill levels through self-evaluations or quizzes, instantly pinpoint their biggest opportunities for growth, create an individual learning plan around targeted learning recommendations to bridge those skill gaps, and visually monitor their progress and achievements over time. And we'll also kind of shift back and show how either a manager or supervisor at a company or you as the association LMS administrator can monitor progress and also look for opportunities to perhaps create new professional development programs around any competency gaps that you're seeing across your membership population. So together, all this used to be one time learning transaction, and it turns it into an ongoing, continuous professional development journey. I'm joined by my colleague Sarvesh, and he's going to walk you through a live demo of MapleLMS and point out how to get this all set up and how it works from a learner's experience.
Thank you, Matt. And with that, let's just dive into MapleLMS. And today, I want to show you how MapleLMS helps associations move beyond a simple course completion to actually building measuring by closing real competency gaps for your members. I'll walk through this using a sales manager competency framework example, and we'll look at it from two sides, as Matt mentioned, how first as an admin, you build those competency frameworks, and then how a member experiences and closes their own gaps. And to begin with, here I'm logged in as an admin in MapleLMS, and here itself, I'll see the block for competencies. And it all begins with creating a competency framework and their proficiency levels. And first, let's say if I go into the competency frameworks, now this is where I add my own competency framework, give it their own proficiency levels. And for example, let's take an example of the sales manager competency framework here. Now here, I'll see the framework for the role of a sales manager. And within this, I'll define specific competencies. For example, negotiation skills, closing skills, and business acumen. And similarly, for each of these proficiency levels, I can figure or configure a definite scale in MapleLMS. And say if I go inside this competency framework to show you how I built out this, I can give this competency framework a name. I can define or give us a description what exactly this competency framework does. And then this is where I select scale for my competency frameworks. So I can select MapleLMS provides you multiple competency, creating multiple scales within your competency frameworks. So either you can create a simple proficient or non-proficient scales, something like this, where a learner once log in or takes a particular course, they can define at first by default be at a scale value of 1. And once they progress through that certification course, once they complete that, they can be proficient and rated 5 across that particular proficiency. Now, similarly, you can create something like beginner, intermediate, or advanced, or configure the scales based on your industry taxonomy as well. And once I'm done creating those competency frameworks and proficiency levels, I can then, as a next step, go on to add these proficiency levels and competency frameworks to a specific course, or I can also align it with a specific role or career paths. Now, for each of these competency frameworks that I've created, this gives me a measurable scale for where a member currently stands and also where they need to go in their learning path. Now, this is the foundation. Instead of saying that did they finish the course, we're saying that how proficient they are in their specific skills. And from here, as I mentioned, I can also align this particular learning plan to a specific career role or career path. Now, this is especially valuable for associations running certification programs or professional designation certificates, where members get a clear role-based roadmap. And then, as a next step, I go on to add these competency frameworks to a specific course. And for that, we'll take a quick example of a similar journey that a sales manager goes through. And this is a course based on the sales manager's skill assessment program. Now here, I link relevant course contents or resources and assessments to each of these competencies that I just created and their proficiency levels to each competency skill gaps as well. Now, take example of this course. For each proficiency levels, I'll connect an assessment that members can take to make themselves competent. And the way the assessments will be configured is that once a learner or a member completes this assessment, pass it with certain grade, only then they can make themselves, first they can mark this particular activity as completed, and then make themselves competent or proficient into a particular skill as well. And the way this works is that first I'll need to go into the competencies. Inside a course, I can see the linked competencies that are already available in this course. And if needed, I can also go on to add certain other competencies into my course as well. So I can select multiple frameworks that I've already selected or created. I can just select them and add it to my proficiency or competency frameworks as well. And once I do that, I'll see all the proficient levels that are aligned in this specific course. And moving back to show you how the assessments will be set up. Let's say if I go into the edit mode and show you how that assessment is particularly set up. Now, within this assessment, I can first of all set a passing grade mark so that learners should at least get this much grade to pass this assessment. And also, you'll find a competency attached to this assessment as well. So this assessment was about product knowledge, and then I also see a competency attached to this assessment so that once a learner or a member passes this assessment, they can make themselves competent or proficient in this specific skill that we've aligned here. And then this would be the structure how, as an admin, we can set those competencies, first creating the competency frameworks, and then assigning those frameworks to a specific skill assessment program and different assessments that are assigned to this course. Now, next, we'll look at, from the learner's perspective or from a member's perspective, how they log in into MapleLMS maybe they purchased this particular skill assessment program and how that journey would look like. And for that, say I log in into my member portal or the LMS as a member. Now, this would be the dashboard view, wherein I can see all the courses that I'm currently enrolled into, my progress within each of these courses, and also options to go to all courses page where I can filter out the courses that I'm enrolled into, or maybe just search and filter out a course that I need to enroll myself into. And once I have that course, say this is the course that I'm already enrolled into. Once I click through this, I take the example of the same course that we were referring to. And here, they start by taking a competency assessment for the role. And here I see I'm already competent into a few of the activities or skills that are aligned here. I can click on the competency reports and initially see that I'm already proficient in 4 out of 8 competencies that are aligned to this course. And if I just go back to show you how, as a learner or as a member, I can make myself competent in another skills that are aligned in this course. Now here I can see the 5th competency or proficiency is around the communication skills. And once I click on this assessment, I can see there are certain grades that are needed to pass this assessment. And once I click on attempt quiz, I can then go on to complete this particular assessment. And say I just take the assessments, answer any questions that are associated with this quiz. And as soon as I finish this and submit this, MapleLMS will automatically flag whether I passed this assessment or if there are any skill gaps related to the assessment that I just took. Now from here, as soon as I finish this assessment, submit this would take me to a feedback page wherein I can see the time that I took to complete this, the grade that I got out of it, this particular assessment, and whether I passed or failed this particular assessment. Now, from here, if I just go back to the course page and I see that I passed this assessment, now this would make me proficient in this particular skill. And just to see that, if I go back to the competency reports in this course, now I see that I'm proficient into 5 out of 8 competencies that were aligned to this course. Now, this gives both the member and the associations a clear starting benchmark. And from here, if I, as a member, go into my profile section, now based on the assessments, the assessment result, first, the system flags whether where the member is not yet proficient into. And then, for example, we saw an example of the negotiation skills where the manager was not yet competent into. And specifically, as a member, I can go into monitoring my learning plans. And once I click on this, I can select a specific learning plan that I am currently going through. Once I click on this, I can see a dedicated member's own dashboard that tells me where I can track my own competency progress over time, see how I progressed upon, from, let's say, beginner to intermediate or intermediate to advanced as I completed the linked courses and the assessments. Now, this is where, as a member, I can see all the competencies that I'm proficient into, my rating within all those competencies, and also maybe competencies that I'm not yet competent into. Now, this visual progress tracking keeps members engaged and motivated, and they can see a tangible growth, not just a list of completed course in the system. But from here, if I also just go back to the profile section, which also has a section of a learning plan for a member. Now, apart from just tracking the competencies and the list of completed courses, members can also curate their own learning plans. Now, this is where it gets interesting, wherein members can see their learning plans that they've curated, and other competencies could be added in their learning plan as well. So from here, let's say if I click on add a new learning plan, let's say I give this a name, something like my learning plan, maybe 2027. And from here, I can give my own description to the learning plan that I'm creating. Once I make this active and save changes, I'll see options to add other competencies into my learning plan as well. So from here, this gives me flexibility whether a member wants to focus narrowly on one skill gap or build a broader development plan across multiple competencies for their role. Now, if I just go back to the learning plan that I was referring to, which was the sales manager learning plan, I can click through this. And this is a key moment wherein I can see my competency areas. So I can see that I'm competent into 5 out of 8 competencies in this role. And I can see the areas that I'm not yet competent into. Now, say the negotiation skill is something where I'm not yet competent into. And this is a key moment because MapleLMS, the competency framework in MapleLMS isn't just diagnostic, it is also monetizable. So as Matt mentioned, a member, as a member, let's say I see gaps in my competency frameworks, I identify that gap, and this is where associations can point members directly to a paid course or a resource that closes that gap. So I can find courses that are related to the competency that I'm not yet proficient into. Let's say if I click on the Find Courses option, now I can get myself enrolled into the courses. I can click through this, get myself enrolled or pay through this course, get myself knowledge around the competency where I'm not yet proficient into. And once I complete that, I can come back here, take the assessment, and once I pass it through definite grades, I can make myself confident around this particular skill as well. Now, this is a direct upsell opportunity built into the learning journey of a member or maybe a non-member. And this self-directed loop, assessing, identifying skill gaps, taking the linked courses and reassessing themselves is what drives the real skill closure in MapleLMS. And it's also a natural point where associations can present relevant paid courses and that are tied directly to a member's identified need. And then from here, I'll quickly switch over my view to that of an admin and take a final step where how as an admin, you can see reporting capabilities around the competencies that you've just built. And one of those reporting is around monitoring of my learning plans. And here, say I selected my learning plan that I was referring to earlier, I can just click on apply and see the list of members that are proficient into each of these skills. Now, as an admin, I see an aggregated report, which members are proficient in which competencies, where the common gaps are across the whole member base. Now, this gives associations the real data to guide content strategy. If a large percentage of, say, sales managers are weak in, let's say, negotiation skills, that tells you exactly what new course or resources to develop or promote next. Now, in a nutshell, to bring it together as an admin, you build the sales manager framework once, create competencies, proficiency levels, and link courses to them. Now, members take assessments to find out where they stand, see their gaps, and choose relevant courses to close those gaps, and then reassess themselves to see their own dashboards, custom learning plans, and guide their own development. Now, it's a framework that drives member engagement, supports certification programs, and creates a natural data-backed path to sell more targeted courses. And with this, I'll hand it over back to Darrean.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarvesh. I hope today's session gave you a fresh perspective on what competency-based learning can look like. As we discussed, it's about moving beyond simply tracking CEUs and creating learning experiences that are more personalized, measurable, and valuable for both your members and your organization. Whether your goal is increasing engagement, supporting career growth, or creating new opportunities for non-dues revenues, competency frameworks can help you build a more meaningful learning journey. Before we wrap up, we would love to answer any questions you have, whether they're about competency frameworks, the MapleLMS platform, or anything that you saw today's demo. So with that, let's open it up for Q&A. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat or the Q&A box, and we're happy to dive in. So it does look like we had one that was answered during it. It was asked, are these slides are very well organized? Are they going to be available to participants? As a reminder, everything that you saw here today will be sent out to everybody who's registered. And then another question that we do have is, what does an enterprise skills dashboard look like for corporate buyers, and how does MapleLMS handle multi-seat or bulk corporate licensing?
Yeah, I'll be happy to take that, Darrean. So the enterprise skills dashboard, and Sarvesh, maybe you could pull that up again. That's how we ended the demo. We were looking at this enterprise skills dashboard from an administrator perspective of the
Mm-hmm.
LMS for the association. But with the powerful microsite feature where you create sub-accounts within the LMS, you can then assign an HR leader or a manager the role that they'll be able to look at this enterprise skills dashboard to see all of their employees, their competency completion rates, their gaps. They can look at individual employee progress towards their job roles. And so this is a powerful feature. In regards to the bulk licensing, so with these sub accounts or portals, you can sell a portal based usually on the number of active users that the company may have, and usually for a defined period. Say maybe a year, and then you just need to simply assign the corporate manager admin rights over their employees, while you can still also sell individual courses, and the system will support the bulk purchasing as we talked about. But some of our clients may use this when they sublicense their LMS to a company to sell it for a flat rate. And once again, it might be based on the number of employees of the employer. And you may give them access to all of your content, or maybe the bulk of it, and you keep some premium offerings behind. But the ease of this is it allows the HR or the learning and development manager at that company to add their own employees, enroll their employees, or allow employees to self-enroll. And this can eliminate for the company any transactions and filling out its expense reports. And the on the association staff side, the workload is very, very simple. It's just simply creating a microsite, and you can do that in less than 5 minutes. And then just simply assigning any HR or L&D managers who need that special admin access, and the company can kind of manage that whole site from their own. So hopefully that helps. Great question.
All right, perfect. And then it looks like we did get another question. How do you keep a competency framework updated as industry skills rapidly evolve?
Yeah, I'll be happy to take that too. Because in what we showed you, the LMS decouples the competencies from the course content. So updating a framework becomes very fluid and modular. So if new technology or regulation emerges in your industry, and administrators can then simply just go in and add a new competency node or swap out a single module without an existing pathway, without having to redesign the entire curriculum. You're just simply creating that new competency and then adding it to any appropriate activities or courses within the system. Likewise, you might have to archive outdated skill requirements behind the scenes, but keeping your overarching framework aligned with the current market demands. So very, very simple to do. Another great question. Thanks.
All right, perfect. Thank you. I think that we have time for a few more. Let's see. So, what is the difference between a learning path and a true competency framework, and why does that distinction matter to our members?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So here at MapleLMS, what we kind of showed you was an individual learning plan, which is a very curated based on the user's needs and what their competency gaps were. So a learning path is very linear and it's prescribed. So, for example, you might have to take course A, then you take course B, then you take course C, and everyone follows the exact same sequence, regardless of their prior experience. With a competency framework and a learning plan, it's personalized and it's outcome driven. So it focuses on mastery, not just content consumption. So a member may take a diagnostic assessment, and if they already demonstrate mastery in course A and course B, the system will skip them ahead to focus only on their actual skill gaps and recommending those appropriate courses that'll move them forward. So, to your members, this distinction matters immensely because it respects their time, and experienced professionals don't want to relearn what they already know. They want an efficient pathway tailored to their exact career needs.
Perfect. And then this will be the last one that we have time for today. Building a competency framework sounds like a huge lift. How long does it typically take an association staff to map out and launch their first framework in MapleLMS?
Oh, it doesn't have to be a huge task. It doesn't have to be a multi-month project. So I usually encourage most associations to start small with a phased rollout, maybe taking 4 weeks to launch their first framework and mapping courses and activities to the competencies. The key here is to start with just one core role or a single specialty area, like maybe an entry level track or your most popular certificate, rather than trying to map out every career path across your entire industry on day one. Once you establish that initial framework, MapleLMS makes it simple to duplicate and adapt those structures, so building out additional tracks will go much faster.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions today. Those are all the ones that we sort of have time for. But I did want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you all taking the time to be here. So if you would like to continue the conversation or see how competency-based learning could work for your organization, we would love to connect. You can reach us using the contact information on the screen or schedule a one-on-one conversation. Thank you again, everyone, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.